You're listening to the We Are Libertarians podcast network. Find all of our shows at wearelibertarians.com. Welcome to Now Hear This. I'm your host, Chris Spangle. Now Hear This is a conversation with leaders in Indianapolis that are working to improve the lives of Hoosiers. Our goal is to empower you to join in their work and make a difference while informing you about the unseen aspects of life in Indiana. If you miss an episode, you can listen via podcast at nowhearthisindy.com. We have a great conversation today. We are talking to the United Cerebral Palsy Association of Greater Indiana about cerebral palsy. We have many dedicated people on the Zoom here. That's how we're doing these through the pandemic, and we're going to talk a little bit about what cerebral palsy is and how they're fighting it. And first up is Mike Fodderl. He is the executive director and a longtime board member of the United Cerebral Palsy Association of Greater Indiana. Mike, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, glad to be here, Chris.
And also with us is Lee White. He has been on the board of directors for a very long time. Lee, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having us, Chris.
And last but certainly not least is Tracy Ford, who is also a board member and the parent of a son who has cerebral palsy. So let's start with what is cerebral palsy and how does it affect those afflicted with it, and how does it develop? Let's start with Tracy, because this is very personal for you and it's brought home with your son. So what is cerebral palsy for those who don't know much about it?
Cerebral palsy affects many children. I'm going to actually have Mike go into more depth with regard to that. However, my son actually suffered a stroke at birth. And at the time, they told us that he will likely not walk, talk, or have the ability to eat on his own. And so cerebral palsy became a component of that. He's a thriving, almost 13-year-old. He plays baseball. He is keeping up with the kids in his class. So his is mild, more of a mild. His right arm tightens up when he runs. His gait is off when he runs, that sort of thing. But very proud of where he is and what cerebral palsy, how we've been able to just manage that through this group.
That's excellent. And so, Mike, tell us a little bit more about cerebral palsy.
Sure. So cerebral palsy is the most common form of physical disability. It affects people. It can be mild or severe. It really affects people's motor functions. So it is a neuromuscular condition. It's usually caused by some kind of trauma at birth. As Tracy said, her son had a stroke. I have cerebral palsy myself, and the blood flow was cut off when I was born, and so that kind of affected my growth and development. But it primarily affects people's ability to use their motor function, and so it can be mild in the sense of Tracy's son has a very mild form. My case is more on the mild side, but it can affect everybody from their ability to use their arms and legs. It can affect one side of their body, and folks who are typically more significantly affected than me or than Tracy's son. Most folks use some kind of assistive equipment to get around, whether a walker or a wheelchair, braces. Usually requires, most folks have surgery of some sort or even multiple surgeries during the course of their development. And even in the most significant cases, it can even affect someone's ability in their speech and their ability to talk and to eat. And kind of everyday motor function. So affects a lot of people. The most recent Center for Disease Control research tells us that about 1 in 250 births is affected by cerebral palsy. And we think that right now there are somewhere around between 10 and 12,000 folks in Indiana that are living with cerebral palsy. So it's a lot broader than you think. And again, it is the most common form of physical disability.
Is it genetic? Is it a function of something going wrong with the birth? I mean, what is the origin of it?
So it's a great question, Chris. And up until actually very, very recently, we believed it was not genetic at all, that it was due to some form of trauma associated in birth, usually some kind of a lack of oxygen during the birth process that kind of affects that initial development. Onset is always by the age of 2 to be a developmental disability. So some kind of trauma in there. In many cases, we don't know exactly the cause of it. It's just sort of, the child has CP and the doctors aren't really sure. But actually, the latest research says that there may be a genetic component, some predisposition to it. But it's still, even in those cases, we still know that it requires some kind of trauma at birth. And we know that good prenatal care can help mitigate that. Certainly doesn't preclude somebody from having that, but good maternal care, prenatal care can be a deterrent to that to some extent. So we promote that as well.
Now, Lee, you've been involved with the United Cerebral Palsy Association of Greater Indiana for decades now. Why is this personal to you?
Well, it started, again, 30 years ago. I walked into Donna Roberts, the executive director at the time. I walked into her office and I saw pictures of children using adaptive wheelchairs and bicycles. And at the time, my 2 kids were small and were healthy and running. And I just felt a responsibility to do something to help parents who were not as fortunate as we were to have children that did not have a physical disability. And so Donna asked me to volunteer, and I started out as a volunteer. And 30 years later, I'm still with the organization and watching it do amazing things to help families with cerebral palsy.
So Tracy, maybe speak to a parent that may be listening that has a newborn, and how do you find out that your child has cerebral palsy? What feelings and thoughts go through your mind, and what do you do next?
Well, initially, we knew about the stroke at birth day 2, so we found out early enough to intervene and have some wonderful specialists here in Indianapolis assist us with our son Cole on many different levels. They being the doctors described to us probably around 12 months. They said we'll kind of see how he does if and when he starts walking. But they also alluded to us that we would need to watch for, in case he starts to walk on his toes, to pay attention to that, because that could be a sign of cerebral palsy. At the time, my husband and I were upset to hear that, because we thought, there's so many things going on right now, and it's very overwhelming. And cerebral palsy to us sounded like just yet another label to add to all the other ones that Cole had. Understanding, though, after doing some research, that cerebral palsy comes from, as Mike was saying, trauma at birth. So brain bleed, that sort of thing. And his was a lack of oxygen during birth. So I think the most important thing was, for my husband and I, was to really reach out to the community, learn as much as we could about everything that we were trying to grasp at that time. Learning that there's this wonderful organization that was there to help those with cerebral palsy, not knowing, again, what my son may or may not need at the time for assistance. And something as wonderful as even horseback riding and therapy of that nature was an option as well. So just such a terrific group to be a part of.
How did you find out about the United Cerebral Palsy Association of Greater Indiana, which can be found at ucpaindy.org? I should mention that more. I'm sorry. How did you find the organization? How did you reach out to them?
It was simply just a web search. I found them on the web when I was Googling some information about cerebral palsy to learn more. Found out that this wonderful group was, again, here in Indy, and that was just an access to a group that I didn't even realize existed at the time. So it was pretty simple search.
Now, Mike, when somebody reaches out to your organization, what's the process? I imagine maybe they send, they get a hold of you on the website and they contact you. What happens next?
So usually people contact us for a variety of ways. And we do get, as Tracy said, probably folks just Google. A lot of folks will just Google cerebral palsy in Indiana, and then we pop up. They reach out to us that way. we get a lot of communication through our website. We have a Facebook page as well, and phone and email. So we get a lot of inquiries that through that method. And then, Chris, it really kind of depends on what folks' needs are. For a lot of the folks that we receive, that we get questions for, probably 60 to 70%, it's just folks wanting to know what services are available or information about cerebral palsy. When we look at when we get questions from the community, there's really a few key points in someone's life that we really get a lot of questions. And one of them is those parents who first get the diagnosis that their children have cerebral palsy. Then we get a lot of folks reaching out then, and they're kind of in that same phase as Tracy of sort of, what's this mean? You know, what is the question? You know, what is cerebral palsy? How is this going to affect my son or my daughter? And then folks tend to reach out as well when kids are starting school, because there's a lot of questions around what services are available in school and how do I advocate for what my child needs, and you know, what are my options. And then again, we get a lot of contact points when kids are graduating or when they're finishing school, because parents and kids are starting to think about what's next. You know, is college or post-secondary an option? What's my employment options? What are my community living, you know, choices? All of those things. And then we tend to get another round of questions as parents age, if they're taking care of older children. And then when that becomes physically a tricky thing to do, we tend to get a lot of folks reaching out for assistance. And so it really kind of just depends, but we do a lot of just referring folks to community services, making sure they have the most up-to-date information on treatment for cerebral palsy, other resources. But our primary program that we do is we help people buy the equipment that they need. So a lot of folks with cerebral palsy need complex equipment like wheelchairs and walkers, braces and orthotics, and that can cost anywhere from a few $100s up to $25,000. And as we all know, with health insurance, even with health insurance, things can be incredibly expensive. Even with Medicaid and Medicare and other services, there's still a lot of out-of-pocket expenses. And for a lot of families, it's a hurdle that they can't cross. And so we're fortunate enough to have funding to help people to pay for that. And so if they reach out to us looking for those services, then it's a simple 3-page application that folks fill out, and then we process that and start the approval process, and usually can get something funded within 6 to 8 weeks. So it's a pretty quick turnaround, unfortunately. And that's something that we pride ourselves for, because usually when folks reach out, you know, they're really in need. So it's something that we don't try to make any harder or any longer than it absolutely has to be.
Talking to the United Cerebral Palsy Association of Greater Indiana, that was Mike Fodderell, who's the executive director, Tracy Ford, who is also on the board and a parent with a son with cerebral palsy. And also with us is longtime board member Lee White. And so over your 30 years of volunteering your time for the organization through these programs, Lee, what are some of the success stories that, when I say, give me an example of someone's life that was changed by your organization, what are a couple of those shining moments that you think about and just that keep you going, that can give folks some hope?
Well, I'd have to first of all say my own, because my life has been permanently changed by the experiences that I've had working with this organization. Mike Fodderell, for instance, was our first scholarship winner graduating from high school. And I can remember meeting Mike and thinking, wow, this guy has his black belt. He's intelligent. He's, focused. And we all both knew that someday he would grow up and be an integral part of this organization. And of course, that prophecy came true, as Mike is now the executive director. So I would say his life, my kids have grown up volunteering in the events that we've had, whether it were golf tournaments or fundraisers for United Cerebral Palsy. So it's been a huge part of my life. And I know I joke about them not firing me. And I remember Donna Roberts telling me once that, yeah, we'll let you off the board. I'll announce it at your funeral, something of that to that effect. So I think I'm here to stay, and hopefully Mike will keep me around, and Tracy appreciates the things that I'm trying to do to help her and families that have cerebral palsy in their lives.
So Mike, that's a great story. I mean, so you've been personally impacted by that work. I mean, tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so in 1996, actually I graduated high school, and fortunately my mom actually worked in the same office as Donna, the former executive director, and that's how my mom and Donna met, and they kind of struck up a friendship. And then as I was graduating, I had a chance to meet Donna, the executive director, and she thought, that I guess that I had some really good potential as somebody to come back and lead. And she told me about the scholarship program and that UCP offers for high school seniors. And so I applied for that and was fortunate enough to win. And it was the first year that the scholarship was given out. And it was just really, it helped me to further my education. I went to Xavier University in Cincinnati and then came back for my master's at IUPUI. So right here in Indianapolis, and UCP was a real key element in helping me to be able to achieve those educational goals. And then when I got back to Indianapolis, I was looking to get involved in the community and kind of make an impact. And Donna reached out to me and said, why don't you join one of our committees, our program committee, and kind of helps us to kind of oversee the programs that we do and make recommendations on, who we should serve and how to do that the best we can. And I did that. And then they said, well, you're doing a great job after about a year. Why don't you join the board? And I met this other young guy, Lee White, that was on the board then too. And he said, why don't you come join the board with me and some other board members? And, it's been really meaningful for me for, a few reasons. For one, that the organization was able to help me to get the education to come back and make an impact, and two, I look at my circumstances and I think of myself as very fortunate. I mean, I have cerebral palsy and it does affect me somewhat, but my case is very mild and I'm able to do a lot of things much more easily than a lot of folks with cerebral palsy. So I know that I look at myself as being pretty lucky in that regard, and that I've had a lot of opportunities thanks to people like Donna and Lee and other people in my life that have given me a chance to do some really great things. And I want to make sure that other folks with cerebral palsy have a chance to have that kind of opportunity too, because just having one or two helping hands can really make a big difference. And you never know, just that little push in the right direction. If we help somebody buy a wheelchair and now they're able to get a job or go to school, and that was going to be a difficult thing for them before, you never know what kind of positive impact that's going to have in their life. I mean, they may go on to do really fantastic things, and we might have been able to be a piece of that. And so just being able to have that potential impact on Hoosiers with cerebral palsy, it's just really something that really just it really just means a lot to me, because the organization was able to do that same thing for me.
Very good. We're speaking to the United Cerebral Palsy Association of Greater Indiana. You can find out more information about them at ucpaindy.org. Let's talk about the ways that you fundraise, because it sounds like, it's very capital intensive what you do in terms of buying a lot of this equipment. Lee, what are some ways that you raise money as a board member and as an organization?
Well, obviously, we focus on finding donors who have a passion for people with disability, and certainly family members of people with cerebral palsy who have means. We try to target them. We also do a lot of work in the corporate community. That's been my role in connecting some of the corporate contacts that I have developed over the years to sponsor events like our women's golf tournament. We're one of the few women-only golf tournaments in the city, and we've done that tournament over 14 years. And it has become a popular can't-miss event. We've also, we had a fundraiser back in the day, Mike. We did a telethon that actually was very successful back when telethons were very prominent. So
they may have to come back.
Yeah, Zoomathon. But it's just been wonderful. And of course, this new event that we're launching, actually tomorrow is the launch date. The 2020 Pand Academy Awards we think it's going to be the biggest fundraising event that we've ever imagined. People will submit videos about, I love my blank with a disability. So it's not just about people with cerebral palsy, but disabilities of all kinds, showing that people with disabilities need love as well as anyone else. And so we think this fundraiser patterned around the Academy Awards is going to be a game changer for the organization.
Where can people find out more information about that, Mike?
Yeah, the best way to do that is just go to our website, and that's ucpaindy.org. And that launches on July 15th. So on July 15th, that's open, and contest is open through September 15th. So folks have 2 months to do that. It's a 90-second video, and you can enter that for $10. And then if you're picked as a winner, as Lee said, you get to come to our award show here in Indianapolis, or we'll Zoom you in if you're around the country as well. But some really nice, I think some really nice goodie bags and things for the winners. We're going to have some celebrities there, so you get a chance to meet and kind of hobnob with some prominent folks here in Indianapolis, and it should be a great event.
Tracy, do you have your camera ready? Do you have your script written?
Working on it. Not too worried about it, because I'm looking forward to submitting our story, and not sure if we'll win anything, but but definitely being a part of it.
Excellent. Very good. So we're coming to the end. What are some ways that people can get involved in the organization that they can help them? Let's ask Mike Fodderell, who's the executive director of the United Cerebral Palsy Association of Greater Indiana.
Yeah, so we're always looking for people to get involved. We need folks that can join that are looking to join our board with a variety of backgrounds in fundraising and finance, and a legal background. So any of that is always prominent for our board. We're also looking for folks that just want to help us and do things like help us to pick the folks that should get our funding. We always get tons of applications for assistance that we're always trying to figure out how to prioritize those things, and we're looking for community members to help us to do that. We still offer the scholarship program, as we talked about earlier, and having folks to help us to judge those and to pick those winners is always great. And we have a variety of other volunteer opportunities. And again, the best way to reach out to us is just on the website, the ucpaindy.org, and we'll have our most current needs on there, and folks can reach out, and we can, if you have a passion and an interest in helping folks with cerebral palsy, we'll find something for you to help us with.
All right. I like to end every show by asking, what is the thing that you see every day in your work that you'd like everybody to know? And we'll just go down the line. So let's start with Mike. What is the thing that you see every day that you just wish people understood about cerebral palsy or your work?
For me, it's just the range of dynamic people that I meet and talk to with cerebral palsy that are doing all kinds of things. Everything from just working and going to school to having a family to contributing to their community in lots of different ways. I'm just constantly amazed by the people that are doing great things. And it's easy for us, I think, to make assumptions about people with disabilities, but I'm always reminded of just the fantastic things that folks can do. So it just impresses me every day.
Lee?
For me, it's just understanding that we all have some type of disability, and that when we start to judge others based on their disabilities, either visual or unseen, we tend to forget that, we all have issues. And so I'd just like to see more awareness of the fact that there are many different types of disabilities that affect people, and that it's too easy to judge people based on their appearance and not by what's in their heart, what's in their minds, and the contributions they can make to society.
Tracy, what about yourself?
Really can't help but echo Mike and Lee. But as a parent, you want your child to not feel any different than anyone else. And my goal as a parent is for him to be independent, have self-esteem and confidence, and no matter how he may feel or look physically or mentally, the idea is just for him to say, you know what, so what? I'm a great kid. I've got some really strong attributes and characteristics to offer people, and just to look past that and make that truly secondary.
Very good. It has been great talking to all three of you. Mike Fodderell, who is the executive director of the United Cerebral Palsy Association of Greater Indiana, Lee White and Tracy Ford, who are board members. You can find out more about their organization at ucpaindy.org. Please make sure you check out their website. And if you enjoyed this episode, please share it. Mike, final thoughts? Is there anything else that maybe we missed through the episode that you'd like to share?
I think we covered things pretty well, but I would just encourage everybody, if they're interested, participating in our Panda Academy Awards, as Lee talked about. So just check out our website and submit a video.
When does that end, by the way?
September 15th.
Okay. All right. So we have some time. So,
Yep.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for listening to Now Hear This. My name is Chris Spangle. If you missed any portion of our program, you can listen on our website at nowhearthisindy.com. If you'd like to have your organization featured on the show, please contact Gabby at 317-475-7407 or via the contact page on our website. Thanks for listening, and we will be back again next weekend with Now Hear This. In the span of 2 years, podcast advertising has become a billion-dollar industry. Why? Changes to social media and search engines aren't getting the same results as they used to. And let's be honest, why would anyone want to financially support them? Plus, the loyal audiences of audio brands have a better return on investment. Need more convincing on that? Look up Edison Research's Infinite Dial. As the longest-running libertarian network, the audience of the We Are Libertarians podcast network have been our partners in growth for almost a decade. We are looking for advertisers that will enhance the lives of our listeners, and we have only 6 slots available for companies that are looking to grow with us. Volume matters in advertising, and no other libertarian brand can offer you over 40 episodes across 10 shows a month while reaching tens of thousands of people for one easy monthly payment. It is simple. Email me now, Chris Spangle, at chrisspangle.com, and let us start supporting your business as you support ours.